Hi 4G students, welcome to a new video in this channel and welcome to a new week for EPISD at home. Today guys, I am so excited because we get to do social studies and I get to teach a really special lesson. And yes, I'm talking about World War One. Yes, WW1. I know that you have been waiting for this moment, you have been waiting for this unit. And guys, today is the day to learn about this event. Today, Monday, April 27th, 2020. And let me tell you that this week will be dedicated for the most part to social studies. Because on Wednesday, I'm going to teach you about the Great Depression, and on Friday, I'm going to teach you about World War II. Why? Because those three events, the one that we are doing today and the one that we're doing on Wednesday and Friday, yes, World War I, the Great Depression, and World War II are all connected. So I think it's a good idea if we learn about those three within the same week. So this week, guys, it's gonna be a really special week because we get to do social studies 3 times because those three events are connected. But today, let's go ahead and do World War One, WW1. Okay, so first, I'm going to start giving you a little introduction of how this war began, why this war began, how it was solved, how did Texas get involved, or I should say, how did the United States get involved into this? So I'll give you a brief introduction. Then we are going to do the reading of the day. I took the reading from the textbook, so I'll share the reading with you in a moment. But if you want to read it again, which is a good idea, I want to post it in Schoology so you can read it again, okay? Then at the end, I'll make a little conclusion so you can go back to the reading on your own and take the test, okay? Okay, guys, so World War One. What can I say about this war? Okay, guys, this war was I'm thinking of a specific word to describe this word, but actually it's hard to describe this word with just one word. But I can tell you guys that this word, for some reason, it was about to happen. And yes, I know that we are talking about 1914, and then maybe you're thinking, oh, but the world was in peace at that time. Actually, not, guys. Actually, in 1914 and before that, I'm gonna make this map a little bit bigger so all of you can see a little bit better. At that time, guys, a lot of countries, especially in Europe, were looking for power. Yes, they were still looking for power. And I know that some of you are thinking, but that's what they did in the 1500s when they came to America with Christopher Columbus and all the explorers. They were looking for power. Guess what? They still had the same idea. People in Turkey, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Russia, France, well, almost all the countries in Europe were looking for power. They wanted to get bigger, stronger, wealthier. They wanted to be the best in the world. They wanted to be the top nation. So, by no means, they were thinking to stop. They had the idea of conquering. They had the idea of doing invasions. Invasions mean going to another country, declare war, and gain or take that territory away. that was the idea of many of the countries at that time. So the tensions were about to break. So in 1914 this happened. The war began in 1914, and people were so afraid about this war because they knew that this war uh, if this war became a reality, this war was going to be different from anything of the past. Why, guys? Because at that time, the armies now they had airplanes and they had more powerful weapons. So people knew that destruction was going to happen because they had more inventions like the airplanes. This was the first war when soldiers started to use airplanes. And also another 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 technique that provoked a lot of casualties and also contributed to this war was the use of trenches. The war lasted 4 years, as you can see here, from 1914 to 1918. One of the reasons why this war lasted so long is because the armies um, created a new way of fighting, and that was the use of trenches. And as you can see, they are like hallways where soldiers can sleep, construct, read, observe, fight. So these were like their houses. So it was hard to see the enemy. It was hard to see where they were. So you needed a lot of a strategy. You needed maps. You needed to walk a lot, to use airplanes, to take pictures, to use all kinds of things to discover these trenches. So the use of trenches uh, was a new technique also used in World War I. And you're gonna see more once we get to the reading. And yes, guys, this war was a huge event at that time. And just let me tell you before we get to the reading that back then people didn't call this World War I. Remember that they didn't know that a second war was about to happen. They called this war the Great War or the War of the Devil. That's how they called it back then because it was so bad. And yes, the United States got involved in the war, but I'll tell you that once we get to the reading because yes, the US took part of the war. Okay, so now it's time to go to the textbook. Remember, if you want to find the reading, it's gonna be available in Schoology. Okay, so follow me. I'm gonna pause the video like every paragraph to do a quick explanation of what is going on. Okay, guys. So 3, 2, 1, go.
World War I and the 1920s. I will know how events in the first 2 decades of the 1900s affected life in Texas. Vocabulary: alliance, suffrage, conserve, jazz, bond, prejudice, interest. Before 1920, women were denied the right to vote. Posters pointed out how unfair this was. Design and draw a poster that you think would have helped women win the right to vote. Far across the ocean, in 1914, war broke out in Europe. Britain, France, Italy, and Russia formed an alliance. An alliance is a formal agreement of friendship between countries. These 4 countries were known as the Allied Powers. Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, or Turkey, formed the Central Powers.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna stop the reading for a little bit to explain what is happening right here. And that's gonna take us to the map right here. So, when I told you that this war was so destructive, I meant that this war was able to reach that level of destruction because a lot of countries got involved in the war. I don't know if you remember, but when we saw the Battle of the Alamo, that was only two countries fighting each other, was right? Do you remember? It was Texas against Mexico, or even the Civil War. Well, the Civil War was destructive, but it was only between two groups or two armies. But on this one, guys, World War I, I'm talking about this map right here. You can see that a lot of countries are involved in the war. You see, and I'm talking about the countries that are in blue and red. And I'm gonna tell you why those countries are in those colors. But you can see that people in Great Britain, United States, France, Germany, Russia, Austria-Hungary, Turkey, Italy, all of them were involved in the war. Well, it's not because all of them were fighting one another. It's because they formed teams, or I should say, do you see this word? Alliances. Alliances are teams, so they created two teams. We can call it the good team and the bad team. And the United States was with the good team. The good team was called the Allied Powers, the ones in blue, and the bad ones were the Central Powers, the ones in red. So now you can see why this war was so destructive, because a lot of countries were involved in this war, and they had a lot of weapons like the airplanes. So this war was bad, guys. So let's continue and let's see why the United States got involved in the war.
World War I. President Woodrow Wilson asked the people of the United States not to take sides in the war. Then in 1915, a German submarine sank a British passenger ship, the Lusitania. More than 1,100 people died, including 128 Americans. Though angry, the United States still did not declare war. German naval attacks on merchant and other ships increased. In April 1917, the United States joined the Allied powers to fight Germany and the Central Powers.
Okay, so I know that you saw on the introduction that the war lasted for 4 years, right? From 1914 to 1918. And it says here that the United States got involved until 1917. Why? Well, actually, at the beginning, the United States said, the president at the time was Wilson. He said to the Congress, I don't want to take my army. He was talking about the United States. I don't want to take my army to war. I think we already had enough with the Civil War. We are living peace right now. We don't want to get into this great war. But guys, life is not easy, and people that were traveling to Europe, you know that the war was taking place in Europe. People traveling from the United States to Europe were doing were traveling for business. Were traveling just to take good vacations, which was not a good idea at the time, but they were doing it. The United States was living their own thing, but what was happening at the time? Germany was attacking the ships and the submarines at that time. So this happened one time, this happened a second time, even a third time, fourth time. Germany was attacking the U.S. ships and submarines, and until the United States said, enough. We have to stop this. We're gonna show them that our country needs to be respected. And the United States decided to enter the war in 1917, and they joined the Allied powers, the ones in blue. So the United States was on the side of France, Great Britain, Italy, and Russia, and they were fighting against the Central Powers, the ones in red, against Germany, Turkey, and Austria-Hungary. Okay. Now in the next paragraph, we're gonna see how Texans helped during the war.
1. Identify and write the names of the continents on which the major Allied and Central Powers were located. Texans go to war. World War I had a big impact on life in Texas and the nation. Millions of Americans joined the armed services to fight the Central Powers. More than 20,000 of them were women who went to Europe to serve as nurses. Nearly 200,000 Texans also joined up. Among them were 450 women nurses. The new soldiers needed training. The United States set up camps where they could learn new skills and work as a team. In Texas, the largest included Camp MacArthur at Waco, Camp Logan at Houston, Camp Travis at San Antonio, and Camp Bowie at Fort Worth. Training for officers took place at Leon Springs. Airplanes came into common use during World War I. Many new pilots trained in San Antonio. At Kelly Field, more than 1,500 men learned to fly. Thousands more learned how to be airplane mechanics. Pilots also trained at the nearby Stinson School of Flying. Marjorie Stinson, a licensed pilot, had founded the school. She, her sister Catherine, and her brothers all helped run it. 2.
Okay, so here we saw how Texans helped during the war. And obviously, a lot of Texans listed in the army, got enlisted in the army, women and men. Okay, I really want to mention here the role of women in the battlefield. Women that went to Europe, that went to the battlefield, served as nurses for the most part. And men, men did the hard work, And I'm not saying that women didn't do a difficult task, but what I'm trying to say is that men were the actual ones fighting in the trenches. Okay, so a lot of Texans went to the war, women and men. And also Texas, and I'm talking about the cities in Texas, like San Antonio, like Waco, like Houston, Fort Worth. Those places served as training camps. You know that airplanes were like the new thing at that time. Everyone wanted to fly an airplane. So Texas created these training camps to help new soldiers learn new skills, such as learning how to fly an airplane. Okay, so that's how Texas or Texans helped during the war. And on the next paragraph, you're gonna see how people in the United States and Texas lived during World War I. Okay, this is the last page that we are reading today.
Texas during World War I. World War I also had an impact on life at home in Texas. More food for soldiers and supplies for the armed forces were needed to win. But as farmers became soldiers and left their fields, food shortages occurred. The Texas farmers who stayed behind worked hard to grow more food crops and meet the demand. The United States government then purchased these agricultural products from Texas and other states. People throughout the country and in Texas volunteered to help the war. Millions conserved food. To conserve means to limit the use of something in order to protect from waste or overuse. People followed a plan set out by the United States Food Administration. They volunteered to cut down on sugar and meat every day. Many Texas families grew their own vegetables. That way, more canned foods could be sent to soldiers. People also took jobs that helped the war. Texas's refineries produced oil products that were bought by the United States government for the war. Raising livestock and packing meat was also important. Women went to work in factories, taking jobs that soldiers left behind. Some worked for volunteer groups such as the Red Cross. Many people helped the government raise money for the war by buying Liberty bonds. A bond is a document received in exchange for money. People return the bond at a certain date and get back their money with interest. Interest is money earned at a regular rate for the use of money lent. The war ended in 1918. The Allied powers had won. but the cost was great. More than 5,000 Texans died while serving in the armed forces.
Okay, guys, so here I want to mention two things before we go back to the main page and do the conclusion. I want to talk to you guys about this. People at that time needed to conserve. That means that people needed to save resources for the future, and also they were saving resources for the soldiers. So instead of buying a lot of sugar, they just only got 1 kilogram, and they left uh, the rest for soldiers, right? Because soldiers needed food in the battlefield, and the same thing happened with other resources such as oil. Remember that oil is a crucial resource to make gas, right? So so the government said, yes, you still can get your resources, but you can get the minimum. You just have to get a little bit, because we need to save for the future. We need to save for our soldiers. And also another way that people in Texas and the United States helped, it was by buying bonds. Bond is a document where actually it was like a piece of paper. You went to the store and you ask the cashier, can I get a bond? And that was a way of helping the government to raise money. So that was a way of helping to buy more airplanes, to buy more uniforms, to buy more medicines for the soldiers. So a bond was a document that helped the government to raise money. Actually, it was like you giving money to the government. And the good thing is that at the end of the war, the government paid back to you with interest. That means that you got more money at the end. Okay, so those were two ways of how people in the United States and Texas helped during the war. And now you're asking yourselves, but who won the war? The Allied powers or the Central powers? Okay, good things. It was that the good ones won the war. The Allied powers, yes, the United States won the war along with Russia, France, Great Britain, and Italy. But let me tell you that uh, even though this was a huge winning, Germany and other countries wanted to take revenge. That's why we had World War II. Okay, now you see it. And on Friday, I'll be talking to you about World War II. But between the two wars, between World War I and World War II, there was a really sad time in history, and that was called the Great Depression. And I'll be talking to you that on Wednesday. Okay, now you see it's a sequence. Okay, so this was the first war, the Great War. On Wednesday, the Great Depression. And on Friday, we get to see how Germany decided to take revenge for everything that happened in this war. Okay, guys, remember that sadly today we don't have a video conference, but still I'm here. If you have any questions, let me know. Please let me know. You can send me a message on Class Dojo, or you can leave it in the comment section. Guys, it was a pleasure to make this video for you. I hope all of you are doing well. I am your teacher, Mr. Gonzalez. Yes, I'm a little bit scared like the little monkey, because on Wednesday we get to see the Great Depression, and on Friday World War II. Okay, guys, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye bye.